Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. I'm very pleased to be joined by Nick Clegg here in Birmingham, kindly organised by Laurie Bird, a private interview with Sikh Channel. Welcome to the Sikh Channel. What do you know about the Sikh Channel broadcast?
Well, a lot more now, now that I'm on it. And of course, I've heard from Laurie a great deal about the fantastic work of the Sikh Channel. And I know that Laurie is a great supporter of the channel and has made several appearances and has also spoken so supportively of the Sikh community here in the Midlands, but in the United Kingdom as a whole.
With the coalition government and with the splintering of votes across the country, the Sikh vote has gained increasing importance, and the Sikh community in their manifesto have highlighted 50 key seats which can be influenced by the Sikh vote. What's your message to Sikh viewers? Why should they vote for the Liberal Party?
I think in one word I'd say tolerance. You know, we live in a time when a lot of the, as you say, splintering of British politics means you've got a lot of people on the extremes of right and left, lots of very kind of breathless anti-immigration, anti-foreigner, anti-everything sort of language. And you've got the two main parties, Labour and the Conservatives, the Labour Party kind of rushing off to the left and not sort of burying its head in the sand about what's needed to fix the economy, and the Conservative Party rushing off to the right, and as we've heard this week, saying that they'll take £1,500 off 8 million of the poorest families across the country. And I think, we're the only party, we've had our ups and downs over the last few years, but we're the only party saying, look, we're going to stand up for the kind of decent, tolerant centre of politics, where all communities of all denominations and all backgrounds and all religions can coexist happily together in Britain.
Nick, you mentioned tolerance, and David Cameron in the past has spoken about the need for greater British values, particularly in education, in schools. With the Sikh ethos of tolerance and acceptance of all, do you think there's a special place for teaching the Sikh faith in religious education? Because I know from my own children's experience, the Sikh faith is neglected in RE lessons. Should we be giving greater prominence to the Sikh faith in schools to help this message of tolerance amongst all communities?
I think it helps children immensely. I've got small children at school. In fact, they're at state faith schools. And I see for myself as a dad, as much as a politician, that it's really important for our kids to not only be proud of their own religion, if they're religious, but also aware of the ethos and the philosophy and the thinking and the traditions and the history of other religions. I think mutual respect is an absolutely indispensable value that actually binds lots and lots of communities together, even if they come from different communities. I think one of the things that is very unique about the Liberal Democrats is how intolerant we are of intolerance.
We hate intolerance.
Yeah. But for a very good reason. In this day and age, it's very important that people are respectful of each other's religions.
And following on from that, the Sikh community have really been very enthusiastic about free schools. I realise that the Liberals are not big supporters of the free school system, but David Cameron has committed to introducing further free schools if elected. And the Sikh community have taken great advantage with several faith schools springing up around the country. It's something that the Sikh community are very keen on. Would you encourage this? Are you happy for the Sikh community to open further free schools in the coming years?
So we have no objection at all to the idea that communities and parents and teachers get together to create new schools where there's obviously a need, where there are just no school places. What we object to is what the Conservatives have now said, which is that they're going to spend hundreds of millions of pounds of taxpayers' money opening schools in areas where there isn't a basic need for new school places. Because where will that money come from? It'll come from other schools. And I don't think we should be snatching money away from kids who are at, existing schools in order to indulge one political party's ideological commitment to opening free schools in areas where that's not really needed. So absolutely, I've supported this in government. It wouldn't have happened if I had not supported it. Free schools like Sikh free schools in areas where there's basic need, but no to taking money away from existing schools, impoverishing existing schools. And remember, we are now the only party in British politics, the Liberal Democrats, who have a costed plan to protect the money going into all of our education system, from nursery to 19, from cradle to college. Conservatives want to actually cut, in real terms, the amount of money going into our education system. So all I'm asking for is a bit of realism, and I just think the Conservative Party needs to be a little bit more honest about what they're really saying, because what they're really saying is money being taken away from existing schools, which I don't think is acceptable to parents up and down the country.
Thank you very much. And would you rather join with Ed Miliband rather than David Cameron? I mean, that's the million-dollar question. I expect you to ask this question very often. But are you closer in terms of ideology and ethos to the Labour Party? Would that suit you better in the future?
I am asked this a lot, not quite as charmingly as you just asked it yourself, but I am asked this a lot. And I always have the same answer, which is, do you know what? It's not for me to decide, or indeed Ed Miliband or David Cameron, how this country is governed if no single party has won a majority. You know, I am a Democrat before anything else, and in a democracy you follow the instructions of the British people. So last time, for instance, it was clear that the only way, following the instructions of millions of voters in the ballot box, the only way that this country could be governed in a stable coalition was a combination of the Liberal Democrats and the Conservatives. There was no option of a Liberal Democrat Labour coalition. And so we will deal, Laurelie and I will deal with the cards dealt to us by the British people. We don't want to be in government at all costs, but if we can play a role as a responsible party of the tolerant centre ground to keep the country anchored in the centre ground and not lurching to the left under Labour where they would ruin the economy, or lurching to the right where I think the Conservatives on their own would be unfair to people who are vulnerable. If we can keep the country anchored to the centre ground, of course we'd look at that. But thankfully, perhaps, it's not a question of individual whims or wishes. It is actually the decision of millions of British voters that will determine who will govern our country.